Hello, welcome to News Central Television. This is the conversation where we bring you all the latest political happenings on the continent. I'm Gbenga, Aborowa.
And I'm Rita, Omodia. Today on the program, we will be looking at the criminal charges against former Botswana President Ian Khama. Also, we will discuss the state of security in Nigeria, where the President, Muhammad Buhari, has frowned on the fact that his previous directives to the military to end insecurity in the country has not yielded many results.
Now, in the face of worsening insecurity in Nigeria, President Muhammad Buhari, after a 3.5-hour meeting of the National Security Council at the State House in Abuja, told security agencies that they were not doing enough to end the security challenges in the country, despite enormous logistics provided by his administration. President Buhari has directed all the operational and intelligence agencies to rescue and hurt all persons kidnapped by terrorists, including those in the recent Kaduna-bound train.
Now, more than 160 passengers who were on a train that was attacked in the northern Nigerian city of Kaduna last month remained missing or unaccounted for, as details of possible collaboration between Boko Haram jihadists and local bandits have emerged. Now, join us live on the program to discuss this. We have Nurudeen Adegbenro. He is a journalist and political analyst. We also have joining us on the conversation Seyi Adetayo. He is a security and intelligence expert. Gentlemen, welcome to the conversation.
Good to be here.
Thank you. So I'll start with you, Seyi. We're looking at the security situation, and during the meeting, the NSA stressed that the president alone could not be blamed for the insecurity in the country, saying his part is to make strategic decisions. Now, in your own view, can we really excuse the president, the chief executive officer, and fault the inadequacies of the military for security failure in the country?
Text of the press release from the NSA. We see that is trying to be strategic in terms of response, likely containing information relating to what they want Nigerians to do. Should we blame the president? Definitely, when we are saddled with situations like this, the buck stops on the desk of the president. So it's not about who to blame; it's about who is going to be held accountable and who is responsible for what's actually happening in the country. From what I could pick from the NSA's response or the feedback from the NSA after the meeting is that there is dearth of intelligence coming from the local community where all these activities are happening. And they believe that they can get more intelligence coming from that area, and with additional technology that they'll be able to do much. But that is just part of what the situation is. And I think that is very strategic in terms of what is communicated. The truth here is that there's enough intelligence for them to work with. The intelligence might not be as much as it is required right now, but they have enough intelligence at their disposal right now. Two things are lacking. Number one, the capacity and capability to meet the response with the intelligence that is available is one. As it is today, if the locals are providing enough intelligence for the Nigerian armed forces, they don't have the capacity to utilize the intelligence as it is. Are there, opportunities for more intelligence? Yes, that is true. They are not getting enough intelligence within the communities there. And we can't really blame the communities because intelligence provided before now have not been adequately responded to. Why? Because the capacity and capability to respond to those intelligence from those communities, especially from Northwest, they are not there. Niger State alone is so large. It's the largest state in the whole country. The total strength of Nigerian armed forces today, if they are taken to Niger State, cannot clear the problem that is there. And this lack of intelligence is born out of the fact that the ones that have been supplied before. Now, let me clarify something. When we talk about intelligence here, there are two or several layers to intelligence. We have the intelligence agencies that are saddled with the responsibility of providing intelligence to government. They employed their own personnel that we call agents. They are agents, they are intelligence agents that are supposed to work on the field. but they cannot fill all the space for the intelligence requirement of the nation. So they need to recruit sources in the communities that will provide this information, because if an intelligence agent enters some community, his presence could be obvious. Now, these communities that they recruit from, some of these communities are also responsible on their own to provide intelligence for government. For example, traditional institutions, community leaders, key non-state actors within the communities are expected. Now, if you look at in Niger State and Kaduna, for example, those forests that these groups are hibernating, there are communities there that are not even accessible to some of all these local institutions. These people only come to town, maybe to come and sell their wares and go back to. So it is expected that it is those communities that will cultivate people in those remote forests to get intelligence from them. But there is a disconnect here, because they don't even trust the community leaders in some of those towns where they can give information. And some of those community leaders are having difficulty even giving information to security agencies. So I saw what the NSA was trying to say, that there is a gap. Yes, there is a gap. But if today those gaps are actively closed, can the Nigerian armed forces be able to respond adequately to those intelligence they are provided? The answer is no. We don't have that capacity as we speak today. So, and I know that actually falls on the lap of Mr. President and the chief of army and service chief that are present at that meeting. So if the NSA is not talking about that, that means that they have sent the one that pertains to them in terms of the gap they need to fill in terms of capacity and capability, and they are speaking to Nigeria only on the deck of intelligence, because that is what they are expecting from the society, from the communities, to be able to provide to them. So there's so much for us to cover in terms of what actually transpired at meet.
Thank you very much, Seyi. I would like to bring in Nurudeen here. Nurudeen, there's a Nigerian way of acting that once there's a problem, you feel if you throw money at it, the problem will disappear. Never in the history of Nigeria have we had a defense budget that is so huge. Now, despite even the president attested to this in the National Security Council meeting, that billions of dollars have been plunged into buying military hardware and to engage the military. Why aren't we seeing results? What is the problem?
Well, to me, I believe one thing, that Nigerian government believe that they give everything to the Nigerian army in terms of successive budgeting system to them. But there are some certain germane things that they need to fight on. Number one, I agree with the other experts there that intelligence gathering is one of the things. But one of the things there is that the money that is being sunk into military is not yielding any results. The last probe that was done on harm being brought into the country, where is the report? The report did not see the light of the day until the aspect of corruption is being looked into in the Nigerian army. We are not going to go anywhere. That is one of the things. Money budgeting for them is not the issue. What of the money being valuable and being going pari passu with the arms available is going to determine what the military will do. Our military are trying, but the problem there is that even within themselves, there are a lot of problems even within the military itself. And when you have a house that is divided against itself, there is no way they can be able to really try on, irrespective of anybody they are fighting. One, look at the issue of sabotage within the military themselves. That sabotage problem being solved? No. No. And if we continue sucking money without solving all the germane issues around here, if you like, we should be budgeting trillions of naira every year to that military, nothing will come out of it. One of the things is sabotage, corruption, even within the military. All the money that has been sunk into that particular arena, is it going down? The probe of how they bought the military equipment and the one that is being shown out, we've had severally how some certain soldiers has come out to tell us that they don't have enough to fight with. Have you really probed into that? Then another thing again is the issue of technology. I think we are not using technology as much as we're supposed to use. If we like, we should be giving soldiers 1 billion naira monthly as salary, even as welfare package. We will not get results until there are some certain things that needs to be really worked on. The other expert has talked about intelligence gathering. It's one of the key. Military cannot do it alone. The villagers from Mongunu down to Kanduga, from Konduga down to Chikun in Kaduna, from there to Kefi Hausa in Jigawa, is everybody ready to give the necessary information to the military to triumph? They can't be everywhere. How many are they? Can they be everywhere? Can they up to 200 million? No. So the citizen needs to play their own role in this particular regard. Until these issues have been resolved, we may not get the results. The budgeting system cannot save us. If you like, we should give it the trillions. Then another one is the issue of technology. We need to really devise technology. We are not using enough technological convergence in fighting this terrorism. If we can do that and we work on the sabotage, if you know, ethnical imbalances is even in the military, and some certain officers have that psyche. Can they really work and triumph with that fight, with all those things? To me, it's not the issue of putting more funds to them alone. Is to really tackle the germane things, all that go around with the military. If we can do that, okay, I think this issue of terrorism is a thing we can tackle with what we really have. But we just need to improvise and have more of it.
All right, Seyi, over to you now. Earlier on, you talked about capacity and capability. Now, Nurudeen mentioned sabotage, corruption, and ethnic imbalances, especially when it comes to the funding sector of the security apparatus in Nigeria. Now, during the statement, the NSA presidency also said that a lot of successes have been recorded in the maritime domain. Can we really attest that the maritime sector has been rid of insurgents?
Well, what we have in the maritime sectors are not insurgents. We have those that are criminals that are carrying out piracy, and it is largely for economic reason. And if you look at the trend in the maritime sector right now, it's not something that will compare to the way it was in the past. There are so many reasons that account for that. One, tide. There are times when tide will not allow piracy to thrive. And then also efforts from the Nigerian Navy and some other foreign partners that have been supporting them within the Gulf of Guinea. And also some of the actions that have been put in place by the IOC, which is International Oil Corporations within the maritime space. But it's not only there that we've been able to see some development. I think also Nigerian Navy launched what they call, I think the Eagle Eye or something like that. Falcon Eye. That maritime domain. But if you look at the Northeast as we speak today, there's so much achievement that have been realized within the last 3 months. And that is the first time in the life of this administration that we've seen semblance of what we saw in the last 5 months of the Jonathan administration, where so much effort and grounds were covered as regarding Boko Haram and insurgents in the Northeast. What we're seeing right now in the Northeast is something that gladdens the heart, not yet Uhuru, but we're seeing that the military are taking the war straight to the enemy and they are taking the grounds away from them. Two things account for that. There is technology in terms of equipment and armament, and there is high morale among the troops to move in. As I believe that when there is equipment, the morals of the military forces will be charged. And that is similar to what we saw in the last 5 months of the Jonathan administration too. Foreign mercenaries were engaged and they came with equipment and the morale was high. So it means that if there are equipment and the morale of the personnel is high, then there'll be effectiveness. And like I've said in other clients that, one, when you are deploying technology, there are 3 things that are important. You talk of technology, you talk of the process you put in place, and you talk of the personnel. Out of these 3, there is one that is not really static or you can rely, which is the personnel. Human being can become the weakness in the process. And that is where we are lacking. Even when we have the technology today, we need to have commensurate manpower to use the equipment and have the right morale to be able to used equipment the way it should be. And that we don't have in the Northwest as we speak. The A-29 Tucano fighter jets are not allowed to be used right now in the Northwest because of the conditions that surround the procurement of those equipment. And that's one of the issues that we're having, because part of what the NSA spoke about when he was speaking about technology is the fact that there are challenges in terms of acquisition. And because of the power plays within the international space, there are certain areas that Nigeria, they are ready to sell to Nigeria, but Nigeria cannot approach them because we're going to have problems with our allies. And our allies that have this technology to sell, they try to put in place some conditions that are so stringent that they expect us to make before they can release. And there's no country that are selling this equipment that's produced and put in warehouse. They don't produce and put in warehouse looking for buyers. They don't at all. It is after you have already signed an agreement with them, that is when they will now start the production. So between the time that they've agreed to sell to us and the time they are producing it, time will have gone, and a lot of grants will have been covered by the enemy. So that's the problem we're having now. We know they are trying to make moves now to procure more equipment, but those equipment will not be readily available for us to use. So what we expect the nation to do now is that while we are waiting for this equipment, we must match it up with strong recruitment of personnel, training and recruitment and training of personnel that will handle this equipment. As we have today, Nigerian Force does not have the required number of personnel to deal with a situation in the Northeast. There have been suggestions that they should increase the strength of CJTF, but there's limitations to how far CJTF can go and the kind of equipment that CJTF can actually carry. If you look at the weapons at their disposal, they are pump actions. Pump actions have its own effective killing range, which is shorter than a rifled weapon like AK-47, AK-49, and the rest, Galil and the rest types of rifled weapon that we're using.
Okay.
What is it called? Pump action uses cartridges. Cartridges dispersed. You cannot use it under certain conditions. If you do, you will kill people that you are not supposed to kill. And that's the reason why you see that even in the Northeast, where CJTF are active, they are usually the one that usually bear the brunt. Casualties are coming from them, even more than the Nigerian armed forces, because the killing range, effective killing range of the weapon they carry is low. And by the time they are confronting Boko Haram that are using, here AA rifles, they are using AK-49, AK-47, their own bullet will reach the CJTF, where the CJTF bullet may not reach the enemy. That's why we have casualty from their end. So the focus right now should be increasing the manpower in the Nigerian armed forces. Let's go for massive recruitment. Budget should not be a problem right now. We're not talking about people you are recruiting to do that 5 years of service. We're talking about people we need to recruit for 5 years service. We have short competent service with the officers. We can do a 5 years program that are willing youth that are willing to join the Nigerian armed forces right now. Several of them are unemployed out there. They are looking for jobs. And that's why we see all these people that are impersonating the Nigerian armed forces. I saw some paraded of recent. Why don't you take them to Jaji to Nigerian Army Depot for training? Those ones are already candidates for training to Nigeria because they want to be soldiers. So let's recruit them under a 5 years renewable. What is it called?
Seyi, while you're talking about recruitment of manpower, some other people will say that it's not necessarily the manpower we have, because somehow we look at priority in security architecture, because we saw reports now of massive deployment of police personnel in the Southeast. So do you think that the security arrangement actually prioritizes its personnel, especially in places where there are a lot of security threats in the country?
The environment in the Southeast and Northwest are different. Southeast is a populated. If you look at the landmass, the whole landmass in Southeast is not up to the landmass in Niger State alone. Go and check the entire landmass in Niger State. It's more than the whole of Southeast put together. And we're talking of area that is largely forested area, ungoverned space, where the military cannot even enter as we speak. For you to clear such environment, you need large manpower. You need to divide the area into quadrants and start doing your clearance operation from one quadrant to the other, to the other, to the other. And then there are people coming, holding the ground for you. If we don't do that, you pursue them you change them from one area, they move to another part. And let me tell you, the forest area from Niger State, creates a kind of canopy forest that extends all the way to Zamfara to the fringes of Katsina and Sokoto, all the way into Niger Republic. They can ride motorcycle from Niger Republic, from Niger and land in Niger State without any area visibility, with Air Force not being able to see them. That is the situation we're talking about. Okay. We have a forest canopy that stretches from Niger State all the way to Niger Republic. These are areas that is difficult for our military to enter. What they are doing in Northeast right now, because they have enough manpower, the alternative terrain, and it's not as forested as the Niger State as we speak. And we're only talking of Niger State right now. There is Kebbi, there is Zamfara, there is Kaduna, there is Katsina, forest in Katsina, there is Sokoto. And all those places, we have 3 countries now that we're almost bordering 3 countries. Border to Niger, border to Benin Republic, and then the Burkina Faso border is not far. I read a story of recent where somebody was narrating his own experience. A very popular gospel musician, his name is Tosin Alao, and he confirmed that the people who kidnapped him are Niger, Fulani from Niger Republic. They are not even Nigerians. It's not about classifying, criminality based on it. It's not. It's a real.
But what about those, Gbenga, what about those that use them for personal bodyguards? I'm talking about, when I talk about security personnel, that we see most high caliber people actually use security men who are supposed to be used for security in the Northeast and of course in turbulent areas for their own personal gain. Gbenga, what about situations like that?
I've been speaking about this for a long time. There are a lot of issues that we need to address. And part of the solutions that we've given, there are certain, when a nation is facing situations like this, you need to actually use your tongue to count your teeth. And one of the things that we've spoken about is that we need to to break the current policing system. It is not an issue that community policing can solve. First of all, we need to create state police so that each state can deal with situations that's confronting it right based on its own peculiarity. That is one. Then 2, there is need for us to break down, the current arrangement between the corporate security and then the government security. There are certain functions that the office of the NSA needs to advise the president and say, you know what, we've been running private gas security in Nigeria for so many years. And there are lots of people with credibility, retired Inspector General of Police and Rita, that are now running private security companies that we can trust to lead this process where certain private security companies that have been in the practice for a long time can be given a certain level, category of license, where they can provide security for the corporate and government security and government facility protection. If we go to the United States today, private security contractors are the one protecting government facilities, not the county police, not the district police. They are the one protecting it, and they have a certain level of clearance. We have the capacity and the manpower to get this done. It will free certain people that we are using, because it is important that we protect those organizations, because our economy is critical. If they are not protected, there will be massive sabotage. And when there is massive sabotage, there's going to be economic loss to the nation. And that is why, but we can solve that problem by freeing certain, but even if we free as it is now, we are freeing policemen. The issues we have in the Northeast, Northwest, and North Central are not what police can solve. Police cannot fire.
Okay, thank you, Seyi. I'd like to bring in Nurudeen. Nurudeen, Nigeria's security issues are peculiar to the nation alone. We've seen how volatile the Sahel region is and the issues with our borders. But West African countries have come together to form the multinational joint task force. How much cooperation is going on between Nigeria and its neighbors that are suffering from the same security threats? And are we doing enough to secure our borders? Nurudeen.
I can't hear you clearly.
I said, how much are we doing to secure our borders, and how much cooperation do we have between Nigeria and neighboring countries like the multinational joint task force in engaging to get rid of this problem of trans-border insurgency?
Well, you know that even the regional task force, Nigerian has been doing a very wonderful job. But the problem we have is that we are just like a farmer that his own house is even leaking. And when your house is leaking, how can you really assist the others? I know that when we're talking about security, it is holistic, and we have to work with a lot of countries that are with us. I mean, in terms of Benin Republic, Cameroon, Niger, Chad, that we need to really work with them. But the problem we are having now is that we have our own national problem that we need to take care of. For instance, if you look at what is happening around Niger, Chad, and compare it with what is happening in Borno, Yobe, Katsina, Adamawa, and down to Kaduna, then when you want to extend it to Niger State, you will discover that it is almost the same occurrences. But now, what we just need to do, apart from having more foot soldiers, we need more soldiers. Our soldiers are not enough. Let us be frank with ourselves. They may go outside and do very well in joint task force, but with what we have on ground, we don't have enough. Even the police, the Nigerian police that we have, they are not up to 500,000. All the serving policemen that we have, they are not up to 500,000. How can 500,000 less than 500,000 can even secure over 200 million people? That's one. Then in terms of our soldiers, we need to do more in also enhancing with other soldiers in Niger, because that particular axis, I'm talking about Borno, Yobe, Katsina, Kaduna, down to Niger, that we need to really emphasize more in terms of collaboration with Niger and Chad specifically, because that route is a major route that we need to really focus on. The Cameroon border with the Southeast, we don't have major problem, especially occasional one that could occur. But in that regard, we can only supply more officers when we have more officers at home. As we speak now, compared to the number of soldiers that have died in the last 8 years, can we really say we have already filled in all those ones? Talk less of Hadimo. We could have all those short-term recruitment we normally have, but this time around, if we can try much as possible, at least have within 6 months, if we can have nothing less than about 700,000, close to 1 million soldiers we imported into the current army formation that we have, I think we are going to do a very good job, even in terms of bordering with Niger and Chad, because that particular angle, early this year, I've visited that bordering countries like Niger, Chad, and I come all the way from Jigawa down to Baatweng. From Bautweng, I link into Nguru in Yobe, then Yobe to Maiduguri. I discovered that all the border towns, there is not enough security to really guide our territorial boundaries. And this is one of the things that you can have terrorists that can come from Niger, that can come from Chad, down to Nigeria and go back instantly. But we need to tell ourselves, all these terrorists are not only those people that are come from other neighboring countries. We have chunks of them, in fact, highest number of them in every state. In Katsina, even in the home country of our president, even in senatorial districts that our president really comes from, they are still having this problem of these terrorist acts. And that is one of the things that we need to really join forces with the Niger, with the Chad, to really all our bordering country that we can safeguard them. The Benin Republic, we don't have much issues. The customs are doing very well, although the immigration are also there. If we can do as much we are doing for Idiroko, Benin Republic border, we can do it for Borno State, Yobe State, Katsina State, Kaduna State, Niger State. We can do that with Chad and Niger. I think we are going to have a better, well-secure country. And in addition, majority of our soldiers, apart from those ones at the forefront, those ones that are even what concerns soldier with internal security, What OP men are doing in Lagos, for instance, when we have Nigerian police, what it means is that we don't have Nigerian police, then soldiers have to augment with internal security. That means even the police themselves, they are not enough. And we need to really, for us to have completing the security agency, for them to complement each other, we need to really employ more of these particular security experts. If we can employ more, then, because what these terrorists, they normally use, they use numbers. If they attack an army formation, they come in ×3 of what the soldiers on ground. So if we can have more soldiers on ground with technology, with sabotage, I think we can have a very good, secure country.
Okay, I think deductions from so far, we need to have more military officers, more security officers. And you also talked about joint forces with other military personnel, especially around Nigeria's borders. Now, Seyi, we know that the roads are no longer safe and there have been repeated attacks, have been rightly seen, on railways. And we even still have people who are still missing due to these attacks on railways. Now, earlier on, there were suggestions about community police, and the Southwest brought about the Amotekun. Now, how successful has this unit been, and what's your take on community policing?
Okay, to me, it seems that we're still beating about the bush. We are still not trying to confront the monster that is staring us in the face. We are not confronting our demons as it is. Amotekun was an intervention by the state governments or governors when the desire for state police was blocked. And it will not replace the functionality of the state police, because they are more or less like a quasi security organization with no solid root. In spite of the state laws that establish them, they are still limited into what they can do. They continue to have a resistance from the police in some states, and the required level of budgets and funding that they need, they are not readily available to them. So it's still a very big gap. However, it's been able to help fix some things. And the right kind of people that should be in the state police are not what we have. If you are going to have state police today, it means that we are going to break down the current federal police structure. And some of those, quality manpower currently within the Nigerian police structure will devolve straight into the state police. And that will give us a very good platform to start. Community policing is good, but it can only try with certain plan. In an environment where there is a appreciable level of relative peace, where we are not having armed race in the society where one group is trying to get more harm than the other group. That's when community policing can try. But the situations as we have, be it the northeast, northwest, north central, southeast, southwest, south-south as it is far beyond what we used to have in this country.
It's quite complex. Yes, thank you very much, Seyi. I wish we could go on, but discussing Nigeria's security issues will definitely take more than one episode of the conversation. I'd like to say a very big thank you to you, Seyi Adetayo, security and intelligence expert, and Nurudeen Adegbenro. Thank you very much for sharing your time and insights with us here on the conversation.
Thank you so much.
You're watching the conversation here on News Central Television. When we return, we'll be going to Botswana, where former President Ian Khama has been charged with weapons possession, illegal weapons possession. We'll be looking at this in detail and the implications. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. You're still watching the conversation right here on News Central Television. Now, on the first phase, we dealt with security situations in Nigeria, where the president, Muhammadu Buhari, has said he is not pleased with the security chiefs in the country, as he has provided all logistics needed, but yet has not provided fruitful result, especially in dealing with security situations. And now shifting attention now to Botswana, where former President Ian Khama has been summoned to appear before a court in Gaborone. He and 4 others, including a former intelligence chief and a suspended police chief, face a total of 38 charges. These ranges from receiving stolen property, unlawful possession of firearms, to registering firearms on the false pretenses. If convicted, Khama could face up to 10 years in prison.
Now, the former president failed to show up at a court in Botswana yesterday because he said he was never served with a summons. The court accepted the explanation by his lawyers and postponed the case to the 6th of June to allow for a summons to be served. If Khama does not appear in court, then it could force Botswana's prosecuting authority to apply for him to be extradited from South Africa. However, former President Khama does not believe the case against him is strong enough for such an application to succeed. Now, joining us live on the conversation from the capital of Botswana, Gaborone, is Victor Baatweng. He's a journalist. Thank you very much for joining us, Victor.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you for the invitation. Yeah.
Now, Victor, how serious are these charges leveled against former President Ian Khama? And there's some observers that feel, it has political undertones, and this is not the first time in President Masisi's presidency that there will be charges leveled against the former president.
Yes, I think the interpretation that this could be a personal attack on the former president comes from the fact that the fight between the two leaders, or the two men, has been going on for the past 4 years. They've been going on since Khama left office in 2018. So some people see these charges as a personal fight against himself and his family and all the associates by President Masisi. And like you said earlier on, at least for the first time ever this past week, we saw the official or the formal charges laid against him, because some of them, they were just charges against his associate. He was in court by association, but this time around his name appeared in court, and unfortunately he could not make it in Gaborone because he's been in exile in South Africa since November 2021.
Okay, Victor, now, according to the lawyers, they said they were not actually served a summons, and of course the court actually agreed to it, and they said they moved the date back to June where he would appear in court. Now, if Khama does not appear in court, do you think Botswana's prosecuting authority to apply for him to be extradited from South Africa will actually succeed?
Well, based on history, there was a case where a former intelligence official was also in court. Botswana requested for some information from the South African authority, and they could not get that information from South Africa. And all this was interpreted as a way of, because of the official or that intel officer's association with Khama, the interpretation was that South Africa was shielding former President Ian Khama because they knew he's also linked to the case. So it will also be interesting to see that this time around, would South Africa agree to send him over to come and face the charges that he's facing.
Thank you, Victor. I believe we have Kabo on the line. Hi, Kabo. Thanks for joining us. Can you kindly unmute your mic, please? Okay. Okay, Victor, staying with you, Victor. As former President Khama's vice president from 2014 to 2018, current President Masisi was a staunch loyalist to his boss who picked him ahead of more senior figures as its successor. How did they fall out, the relationship between former President Khama and President Masisi? And was there an error in judgment on Ian Khama's part, or is President Masisi a master of political camouflage?
Well, I think the fallout mainly came in public when the current President Masisi, fired the former intelligence director general in 2018 when he took office. That's when the the whole problem started. And this is a man who is very close to Khama. This is a man who was himself appointed by former President Ian Khama. So the Masisi, for him to have fired him, then rubbed Khama in a row, and that's where the fight started. And then in terms of the former president or retired President's Act, in terms of benefits, it allows the former president to have access to government transportation, including air transportation. But when it comes to air transportation, is at the privilege of the sitting president. So part of the reason why the two men also started fighting was because whenever the former president was asking permission to use some of the state aircraft, he got a negative answer. So it also built on the tension. There were so many other things. He was removed as part of the position he held in the country. Like he was at some point the chancellor of one of the universities. President Masisi removed him from that. So those are some of the things that went on between 2018 and now that actually resulted in what we see happening today.
Okay, I'm still looking at this rivalry going on between Mogwetsi Masisi and Ian Khama. We see a kind of predecessor and successor rivalry, and even Ian Khama, in a statement to a lot of international organizations, said that Mogwetsi Masisi is trying as much as possible to eliminate him before 2024 elections. Now, do we see this successor and predecessor rivalry continuing into the next general elections?
Most definitely, the fight will go until into the next general elections. In fact, it will also have a bearing in terms of general elections, because as it stands, the nation of Botswana is divided into two. The other half believes that the incumbent president is just implementing the rule of law. And then the other half believes that this is a personal attack on the former president. So when the 2024 elections come, there is going to be that rivalry also coming into place. But obviously, to look at it from a political perspective, if, for instance, Botswana is to ask South Africa to bring Ian Khama and South Africa refuses, then Ian Khama just stays in South Africa beyond 2024. His impact on the ground in terms of political mileage and in terms of political campaign would not be felt as much. It would be an advantage for Masisi to actually have Ian Khama stay in South Africa. So who knows, this could be all part of the whole political fight that President Masisi is doing. He might not even go ahead with the case.
Okay, thank you very much, Victor. Let's bring in Kabo here. Hi, Kabo.
Hello, sir. How are you? Can you hear me?
Very well, thank you. We can hear you. Now, Kabo, we've seen all waters going on, the predecessor and successor rivalry. What's the mood in Botswana? The ordinary Botswanans in Gaborone and different cities, what do they feel? There's a saying that when two elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. Is this affecting governance in any way? And what do the ordinary people of Botswana feel about all this rivalry going on between the president and the former president? So what's the mood, ordinary people in Botswana, what do they feel about all of this rivalry that's going on between President Mogwetsi Masisi and former President Ian Khama?
Well, like I said, the nation is divided into two. The other half believes this is the right thing to do, to go after the former president, because he's just like anyone else. When he has allegations, he needs to prove his innocence in court. But the other half believes that this is a personal attack on himself and his family. So the nation is divided into two, and that's how the mood is on the ground.
But as the SADC intervened, is there any ongoing mediation between two of them?
The SADC, SADC has not yet intervened, because I think they still believe that it's in issues that could still be internally managed by Botswana herself.
Okay, thank you very much, Victor Baatweng. This is where we wrap up the conversation. I do appreciate your insights and time. Thanks for joining us on the conversation.
A pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay, this is where we wrap things up on today's conversation. The first half of the show, we did talk about the security situation in Nigeria, where the president, following a National Security Council meeting, said the security chiefs were not doing enough, and he read the riot act to them. And we just concluded our conversation on the charges leveled against former Botswana President Ian Khama. And that's how much we could take on today's conversation. See you next time. I'm Gbenga, Aborowa.
And I'm Rita, Omodia. The conversation does not end here. Join us again on social media at News Central TV. See you again next week, Monday.